Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell so that you will never miss another upload. So in today's video, I did want to talk about the hair transplant that I received from Natural Transplants Hair Restoration Center. Now, I did get my hair transplant done in March of 2018, so it has been over 2 years since I've gotten my hair transplant, and I just wanted to let everybody know that I do not like my hair transplant. What I don't like about it is that it is thin, my hairline looks unnatural, and it also looks uneven. I did go back and look at some of my videos that I did, some of my update videos that I did on my hair transplants, and what I did wrong was I filmed those videos with studio lighting instead of natural lighting, so you didn't get a good representation of what it really looked like. So I was getting a lot of comments. People were saying you don't need a second hair transplant, it looks good, it looks thick, it looks perfectly fine, but in person and up close, no, it does not look good. So I did go back and put a disclaimer in all of those videos stating that I was dissatisfied with my hair transplant and it still looks thin, just to let everybody know who watches those videos that I hate the way that it looks, and it is still very much thin, and I am extremely upset about the whole situation. So in today's video, I wanted to basically update everybody on how my hairline actually looks in better lighting. So let me just start off by saying I felt like my hair transplant was very much rushed. You know, when I got my hair transplant, it was done in under 4 hours. And I went back and looked at their YouTube videos, and they said that they complete the transplants in between 5 and 6 hours. So I don't know why there's such a big difference in why mine was done in a lesser time than what they advertise on their YouTube channel. And also, I just felt like it was really rushed. I felt like Dr. Siegel did not pay attention to detail because my hairline came out looking so thin and uneven, and there's gaps and there's big spaces in between where the hairs were placed. It just looks a mess, and I'm going to post a lot of pictures throughout this video so that everybody gets an understanding of what I'm talking about. But I went to Natural Transplants because I felt like they were a good clinic for me to get this procedure done. I didn't see a lot of these types of surgeries being done. I did look up some doctors, and Natural Transplants is just the clinic that I chose. I chose Dr. Siegel because his name was thrown out there in the beginning. Up front, when I called Jerry, he said, you know, Dr. Siegel's doing hair transplants for $6,000. So I scheduled my consultation with him, and we discussed my hairline being lowered as well during the consultation. So I just went with Dr. Siegel right off. I didn't get consultations with anybody else but Dr. Siegel, which I know now was a big mistake. So fast forward 6 months after I got my hair transplant, I was very underwhelmed with how it was growing in, how it was looking. It was very thin, and like I mentioned before, there's gaps, there's huge spaces in between the hairs. It looks crazy and unnatural. Like, who would even do a hair transplant and make it look so unnatural and unflattering to my face. It's just crazy. But anyways, I sent him a text message at month 6 stating that my hairline was uneven because I noticed that it looked crazy uneven and the hairs were like spaced really, really far apart and it just looked thin. And I remember him saying when I had my transplant done, oh, you're going to see really, really satisfying results at month 6. So I'm looking at my hair transplant thinking like, what is going on? This looks crazy. So I sent him a text message and he's like, well, 6 months is still really early in the hair growth phase and I'm not worried, that everything's not going to even out and thicken up by month 8 and you have like a lot more thickness to come. And so basically I waited to 2 months. Month 8 comes around. I'm like, this ain't looking hot. This ain't looking hot. So I sent him another text message stating, Dr. Siegel, my hair's still thin. Am I really gonna get any more density? And he's like, yeah, don't worry. There's still a lot more density to come. And I'm like, I really have a feeling that I'm not gonna get a good result. And he's like, oh, don't be so hard on yourself. You look 100 times better than you did when you came to see us initially during your initial visit. And I'm just like, and I sent him pictures, and the pictures that I sent, you can clearly see that it's thin and my hairline is a mess and the hairs are spaced far apart. So, I'm at month 8. Month 8 is really when people are at their final result. You don't get a ton more growth after 8 months. So I'm like really, really scared. I'm just like, something just doesn't feel right about how this is going to end up. So 12 months rolls around and I'm just like, I knew it. I got some horrible results and a doctor was telling me, hey, it's going to get thicker. Your hairline's going to even out. You're telling me all of these things that never happen. You know what I mean? And it looks very, very, my whole hairline as a whole looks extremely unnatural. I just paid $6,000 to get this done. I put my trust into your clinic and your doctor, and this is what I get. I get very, very disappointing results. So I went ahead and scheduled my 12-month follow-up consultation with Dr. Siegel, and I'm telling him, hey, there's like gaps in between the front of my hairline. Like there's gaps and there's spaces. It's looking like, can you show me like the spaces that you're talking about? So I show him and he's like, oh yeah, we can add a few more hairs and I'll cover that for you. You don't have to worry about it because I want to see you smile from ear to ear and I want you to be happy about this. But I also discussed my hairline lowering. And during the Skype consultation, he was like, oh, I thought we only focused on the right side of your hairline. And I'm like, no, you also lowered my hairline and you added additional hair to the left side of my hairline as well. And he was looking like a deer in headlights when I said, no, you lowered my hairline too. He was just like dumbfounded, like, you don't know that you lowered my hairline as well? You don't know what you did to your patient's hairline? That should be documented. That should be noted somewhere in my file. I don't expect you to remember that offhand, but as a doctor and somebody who does hair transplants, you need to know what you're doing to your patient's head. This isn't a guessing game. This isn't something for you to take lightly. This is serious. This is my hairline. This is something I invested my time and money into. So that ended and I'm like, okay, Dr. Siegel, I'm going to send you some more pictures. And he goes, okay, yeah, I'm going to look over everything. Give me a few days. I'll do like a comparison of your before and after. So I waited a few days. I heard absolutely nothing from him. I sent him a text message. I'm like, Dr. Siegel, did you look over my pictures yet? Did you get to compare the before and afters? What are your thoughts? Do you think all the grafts grew in? I'm like, let me know your thoughts on everything, because I'm very, very disappointed in how it looks. And he texts me back and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry that you're disappointed, and I'll have Dr. Huebner follow up with you. And I'm thinking, like, you're telling me you're gonna have Dr. Huebner follow up with me? Dr. Huebner wasn't my doctor. He didn't do the hair transplant. You know what I mean? So that right there didn't make sense to me. You can't answer any of my questions. You can't give me any insight on why my hairline looks the way that it does. But now you're saying you're gonna have Dr. Huebner follow up with me, and Dr. Huebner didn't do my hair transplant. So why are you asking him to follow up with me? Because you don't know how to explain things to me? Because you are afraid to communicate with me and tell me what your insight is on how my hair transplant looks? I'm just blown away at that point. So I didn't even text him back. I'm just like, okay, he's gonna have Dr. Huebner follow up with me. So I'm waiting a few days. Dr. Huebner never calls me. Dr. Huebner never calls me because Dr. Siegel never told him anything about the conversation, number one. So I contacted Jerry and asked him for Dr. Huebner's number. And then for some reason, he gives me Dr. Siegel's number. Like, I clearly told him I want Dr. Huebner's number. And he gives me Dr. Siegel's number. So I'm just like, okay, everybody's getting on my nerves at this point. I remember that I have a business card from Natural Transplants with all the doctors' numbers on it, so I just get that, and Dr. Huebner's number's on it. I call Dr. Huebner. Dr. Huebner's on vacation when I call him. Didn't know that. I felt bad to disturb his vacation, but nonetheless, I talked to him. I said, I got a transplant done with Dr. Siegel in March of the previous year, because it was now March of 2019. So I'm like, Dr. Huebner, I got a transplant March 2018 with Dr. Siegel. I don't like my results. It still looks thin, yada, 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 explaining the whole situation. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll have Jerry contact you to set up a Skype consultation and we'll talk about it. So hang up with him. A few minutes later, I get a call from Jerry and they're right on it. He gets me scheduled with Dr. Huebner. So probably, I don't know, the next week when Dr. Huebner's back from vacation, he talks to me. I tell him about everything. I'm like, okay, there's spaces in the front of my hairline. It looks thin. And he's kind of like very, nonchalant about everything, just basically saying, because of the amount of hair loss that I, had, that 2 transplants were needed, and that, no matter what doctor does your hair transplant, you're still going to end up with so much density because of like how much hair loss that I had, basically. So he was basically saying that my hair transplant looked normal or whatever, and he was like, oh, I didn't know Dr. Siegel told you anything about you would need a second hair transplant, yada, 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 yada. But they really weren't owning up to anything, and they really weren't, saying anything was wrong. I mean, you can look at my hairline and clearly it looks horrible, but nobody wants to take responsibility for anything. So that was my problem. So, I was saying, yeah, I'm, considering a second hair transplant, and he was giving me said, okay, I'll get back to you with the prices and stuff like that. So that's how that conversation went. So, fast forward, I don't know how many months later, I decide to get a consultation with a doctor by the name of Dr. Diep, which I'm sure if you've researched hair transplants, you definitely run across Dr. Diep and his clinic and his YouTube channel and some awesome reviews. So I just wanted to kind of get his interpretation on everything and get his opinion on what I needed to have done. So I scheduled a consultation with Dr. Diep. I just want to say it took me a long time to get that consultation schedule. I mean, he is like busy, sought after doctor. Everybody wants Dr. Diep, but it took me, I think, 4 months to get that consultation. And when I finally got it, I talked to him And he, you know, I had pictures sent to him and he was looking at it. And the great thing about him, as I'm talking to him, he's taking notes. He's very attentive. He's writing down everything that I'm saying. And, you know, I'm just like, you know, I don't like how it looks. I had a previous hair transplant done. I didn't even name the place that I got it done from. But he's like, your hairline looks like a circle. It looks unnatural. And I could see hair plugs at the front of your hairline. And it's a scary thing when another doctor tells you, I can see hair plugs at the front of your hairline, because hair plugs are the unnatural way of doing a hair transplant. Apparently that's what Natural Transplants did. They put hair plugs in. So, and by hair plugs I mean the spaced out hairline, the unnatural hairline. You know, if you think of a baby doll and you look at their hairline and how their hairline's unnatural and it's spaced far apart, that's what the doctor meant by hair plugs. So the fact that he's telling me that, I'm just like, hair plugs, really? So, you know, maybe like a few days later, he quotes me. He says, you know, you're gonna need 4,000 to 4,500 grafts for him to fix it, and he's going to, you know, go under where Natural Transplants did, and there he's going to lower it under what they did, and he's going to fill everything in, and he's going to give me a natural hairline. And so that's basically what I was quoted from Dr. Diep. And he said, and here's the kicker. So what's so crazy about Dr. Diep is he said, my hair transplants take 8 hours to do. 8 hours compared to the 3.5 hours that I spent at Natural Transplants. So you're comparing a 3.5 transplant to an 8-hour transplant. So my jaw just almost dropped to the floor. I'm like, wow, it takes that long, Dr. Diep? And he said, well, I want to make sure that I do a good job. You look at his work, his body of work, his YouTube channel, go to his gallery. You can see how natural looking his hairlines are. And the thing that I'm gonna just compare his work to Natural Transplants real quick. So Natural Transplants basically give everybody the same hairline. They take a black Sharpie and they draw like a round circle on your forehead, and that's your hairline, and that's what they do for everybody. Now what Dr. Diep does is that he will actually personalize your hairline. He will go in there and craft out a hairline according to each individual, their face shape and their bone structure. That's what he does. And the technique that he uses, he's perfected, he's studied, and he is, you know, and he is actually a specialist when it comes to transplanting Afro curly hair. He does it in a way where in one transplant he can get you really, really good density and a natural hairline. So that's the difference between his work and all the other doctors. Just to throw that out there for you. So Dr. Diep told me that I would need 4,000 to 4,500 grafts. And I knew his price was going to be very, very expensive. So he quoted me between 11 and 12 grand. Would I pay that amount? Absolutely. You know why? Because he's the best at it. He's going to get me the hairline that I want. He's going to get me a natural hairline, and he's going to give me density, and he's not going to put hair plugs in my hairline. So I would totally pay 12 grand to have him do my hair transplant and to have it done right. So yes, to Dr. Diep. He's the only one that I trust, because had I known I have to go through all of this, everything that I've been through, shaving my head. They shave the whole front and sides of your head and then the portion of the back that goes from ear to ear. So you're walking around looking crazy. I had to get that done. I had to get the back of my head opened up, sewn back up. And you're telling me, you know, this wasn't communicated to me that I would even need a second hair transplant from the doctor. So the fact that it grew in thin and I'm like, I really have to go through this again, that just boggles my mind. And they need to communicate this to their patients is if this is how it's going to be. People are expecting something else and they're not getting it. They're getting thin hairlines and it's not fair. You know what I mean? Who wants to spend, whether it's $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, $11,000, or however much they're charging for a thin hairline? You know what I mean? That's not fair to us. You know, I understand you're trying to run a business, but run a fair and honest business, because people don't want no thin hairlines. Okay, here's another point that I want to make. So I wrote a review on Natural Transplants website, and I put, you know, basically about my whole experience with the doctor, the fact that I felt like the transplant was rushed, the fact that the doctor couldn't answer any of my questions, the fact that my hairline's still thin and it looks a mess, and I'm still doing the same types of hairstyles that I did before my hair transplant. I have to part it a certain way. I have to wear headbands or put hair fibers in. I'm doing every single thing that I did before I had this hair transplant done. So what was the point of me getting a hair transplant? It's like me taking $6,000 and flushing it down the toilet. Like, what am I getting out of this? Absolutely nothing. This did nothing for me. But anyways, I wrote a review. I expressed my opinion about it. Now, 2 days after I posted the review, I get a call from Dr. Huebner, and he says, "Your review is causing us to lose business. Can you please change your review?" So I'm kind of irritated that you're asking me to even change my review, but I listened to what he had to say. He said, "Oh, can you put in the review that we're going to give you a discounted rate for your second hair transplant?" Because all of the staff, you know, we read it and we just thought your review was so unfair and all this stuff. Like, really, you think my review's unfair? I said nothing but honest things in my review. I talked about the doctor, how he spaced my hairline apart, how I was never told that I would need a second hair transplant in the beginning. If you would have just told me that in the beginning, I would have knew what to expect. That would have potentially changed the fact of me even wanting to get a hair transplant at your clinic, had your doctor told me that up front. So I'm not the unfair one. Your doctor's the unfair one, and at this point, you're asking me to change my review. Your clinic's unfair. So I'm not unfair, you're unfair. So that just really had me feeling some type of way, that he would even say that everybody thought my review was unfair, and now you're asking me to change it. So he asked me to put in my review to add to it, "Oh, can you put in here in your review that we're giving you a discount and that we're trying to fix things and make things right." So I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and add that in. I was nice and I added that in. Did I take any of the other information out? No, I left that in and I reposted it and just added that in. "Oh, hey, you know, they're gonna give me a discount on my second hair transplant. Yada, yada, yada." So I get another call from Dr. Huebner. Can you change your review again, or can you maybe just delete it? Because your review sounds like, you know, somebody might read it and think if they give us a mediocre review that we're going to give them a discount on the second hair transplant. Number one, that statement's you kind of contradicted yourself in that statement, because when I talked to you during our Skype conversation, you told me, you know, we don't want, you know, the second transplant to be a financial burden on our patients. So we offer a discount, you know? You said that, and you've also said it in your YouTube videos, and, you know, patients on the website called Real Self also stated that you give discounts on the second hair transplant. So the fact that you said, "Oh, people might read it and think that they're going to get a discount on the second hair transplant," you've already said it plenty of times. You've already said that it's something that you do. You give discounts on the second hair transplant. So you contradicted yourself with that statement. you know, I had to remind him, your doctor didn't tell me that I would even need a second hair transplant. So he knocked a little bit more money off of the price, you know, because he quoted me a price. I said, you know, I want you to do it, Dr. Huebner. I'd rather you do it and not Dr. Siegel. So, you know, we kind of had conversations again. So he's like, okay, you know, can you maybe just delete your review right now? You know, I just deleted it because they kept complaining about the review that I gave, so I just deleted it. You know, they were complaining that they're losing so much business over it. Meanwhile, it was only up for 2 days. You lost that much business in 2 days. But I eventually just took it down. I realize now that wasn't the right decision. I should have left it up because it was my opinion and it was my honest opinion. And I felt like that review really would have helped somebody else in their decision in choosing a doctor. So I should not have taken it down. I regret that now. So in the second discussion that I had with Dr. Huebner, I'm just like, okay, do you know why Dr. Siegel spaced my hairline out so far? Do you know why there's so many gaps? I'm just trying to get him to at least admit that it doesn't look like a good hair transplant. He didn't come out and say that, but he said, yes, it does look a little spaced out. Mind you, it looks a lot spaced out, but he did say it looks a little bit spaced out. I'm like, can you tell me why Dr. Siegel made it look like this? He's like, I don't know why he made it look like the way it looks, but he was a newer doctor at the time. We bring new doctors into natural transplants all the time and we train them. And it was probably because he was a newer doctor and he was still learning, is basically the explanation that I got. He was a newer doctor and he was still learning. So that didn't make me feel good. And I'm surprised that you even said that, Dr. Huebner. That didn't make me feel good, and that made me feel like I was somebody's guinea pig for them to practice on, and I wasn't taken serious. And this hair transplant wasn't taken serious. And you're offering me, you're saying, oh, we'll fix it for you, but you got to pay us more money for us to fix the hair transplant that Dr. Siegel spaced your hairs far apart. You got to pay us more money to fix it and to add more hairs and to make it look better. So that doesn't make me feel good. So that makes me very, very not trusting of the whole clinic as a whole. Not just Dr. Siegel, but the whole clinic. And I'm not sure that they can give me the hairline that I really want. So the discount doesn't mean anything to me. Even if you offer to do it for free, you're not the right fit for me. I wish I would have realized that in the beginning, but now I realize that the only doctor that I trust to do my hairline, to give me a second hair transplant, would be Dr. Diep. I don't care to go back to natural transplants, and you know, I just think that it's very, very overrated. I mean, you need to communicate everything that you can to your patients straight off. During the consultation, you need to communicate, oh, well, you might need a second hair transplant. Just communicate that from the beginning. You know what I mean? You know, and, you know, the look of the hair transplants aren't very flattering. You know, I know that now. I went back and looked at videos. Looks like everybody's getting the same circular hairline, and a lot of people's results look thin to me. So it's just the technique that they use, and the technique that they use isn't for me, is not appealing to me. And I know that now, and I wish I would have paid closer attention to detail in the beginning. And what I want to tell everybody is that don't jump when somebody tells you a price, whether it's a low or a high price. Go by experience. You know, if somebody's offering you a $6,000 hair transplant, question why. If they're inexperienced, run. Don't even like entertain the thought of somebody lacking experience in this type of thing is going to get you a good hairline, because they're not. You know, I paid $6,000 for a hair transplant and it looks like a $6,000 result. I don't like it. I don't support it. I would never recommend Dr. Siegel to anybody, and that's just how I feel. This has been mentally and emotionally draining for me. This whole situation, it's been horrible, and I don't know what's worse. my before hairline or my after hairline. And that's really, really sad for me to say that, because this is $6,000 that I'm never going to get back. It's just really, really irritating. So I hope everybody learns from my mistakes. Go back and watch some of them videos, because some of them hair transplants that even Dr. Huebner did look real, real thin. Just putting that out there. Compare that work to Dr. Diep and you will see what I'm talking about. Like, he's on a way another level than everybody else and all these other doctors. Like, his patients get really, really good results with one hair transplant. They get good density and they have natural looking hairlines, like, for real. So check out Dr. Diep. I hope everybody learned something from my mistakes. Don't be like me. Research these doctors. Ask for a portfolio of work. Let me see all your work. So I hope everybody found this video informative. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next video.